Hello YouTube! Happy New Year and welcome back to the sesquiannual anniversary of my free-to-play vertical Firefly account. It has now been 18 months since I pulled Firefly and started the journey of keeping her relevant across the changing meta. Of course, out of the box she did great and easily got this new account to full star the endgame. And upgrading her team with Linksha and Fugue kept her doing well throughout Penacony. But then we moved to Amphorius, and oh my god, Amphorius was a nightmare! The new bosses in Amphorius were all AoE focused, and often mechanically terrible for her, with the worst one probably being Flame Reaver. It's an AoE fight that she can't even do properly at E0 because breaking him causes his ghosts to disappear, while he still keeps his damage reduction. Firefly was still able to get full stars, but with each new boss, it felt like she was one mechanic away from not being able to anymore. It wasn't all bad, however. In 2.2, we picked up Fugue's E2 on her rerun, which was a game changer for Firefly in pure fiction, allowing her to stay relevant in that mode and improve her performance on the many AoE focused bosses in general. And that was enough to bridge us to 3.4, when we got a surprise Firefly rerun, and having saved for most of Amphorius, we picked up her E2. The E2 is awesome. It makes her much more flexible, improves her AoE performance dramatically, shaved off many cycles from her clears, and makes her much more fun. Firefly felt good to play again. But at the end of the video, this was my advice to new players looking to pull her. Firefly sucks. Don't pull her. She's a 3-target DPS, which is the worst archetype. She needs her allies to do toughness damage for her, but she's faster than them. Her technique doesn't work on phase changes. If she exits her enhanced state, it takes forever to get enhanced again, and when you do, the first turn is usually wasted because Fugue and Linksha need the imprint from that attack. I had a feeling Firefly would get fixed somehow, and that fix came sooner than expected in the form of Dahlia. She solves Firefly's main problems of taking too long to recharge her ult directly by giving her energy. She solves the problem of having to re-break enemies by letting Firefly do chip damage outside of break. And she solves the problem of Firefly acting before her team through follow-ups that trigger from Firefly's technique and her own E1 triggering at the start of the stage. She does so much for Firefly that I was even ready to catch up on the Amphorius campaign on this account to make sure I got her. And after hitting Pity, we won the 50-50 and got the Dahlia. Even before using her, I already love her because she's the first 50-50 I've won in nearly a year, the last time being Robin back in 3.0. We only had one Pity worth of Stellar Jade left, so I pulled the Light Cone, and with the bad luck curse broken, we won the 75-25. Now let's see if 18 months of investing in Firefly was worth it, starting with Apocalyptic Shadow. On the first side, we have Argenti, which is a boss that we haven't seen in Apocalyptic Shadow in a very long time. Last and only time was a year and a half ago when Firefly released. So this boss is meant to show for her a decent amount. Because of that, we're actually not going to use the Super Break buff that is available to us. Instead, we're going to use a useless one. I think that gives a better idea of how well the character performs in the long term once these buffs go away. So here we break the first shield to unlock Argenti, and now we can just start killing him directly. So this is going to end turn and action advance everybody. So one of the nice perks about Dahlia is that she provides a lot more upfront toughness damage than Ruin May did, and so now we can push these bosses a lot faster than before. And here, I do want to push this toughness as much as possible. So that Firefly gets the crack on it, and then gets most of the damage out of it. Firefly goes again. And we're on to the next phase. So these shields, we have to break them all before they pop. We can just use our skill points. On this team, we're invested enough that we get plenty of skill points. Firefly gets her E2 action advance, or rather resurgence proc. And this kills all the shields, which allows us to start working on Argenti himself. So we have to burn one turn, unfortunately. We do some damage to him, but not a crazy amount, as we can tell. Now he takes his turn. And we break. He doesn't get to spawn his shields. Firefly transforms. She will get the Fugue Shield breakness and her extra turn here, which will give us a fairly clean 1790. On the second side, we have the Banana Classroom. This boss is decent for Firefly. It's not ideal for a reason we'll discuss in a moment. In the meantime, there is no buff for us to give super break damage on this side. Instead, if you wanted to push a score, there is a dot buff, because when we break these enemies, we deposit a burn on them. We could use that burn to speed up our team. Instead, we're just going to use a useless mem one to get a better idea of how the damage works. So we break the TV to action advance the team, and now we can start pushing the TVs with our allies. Okay, so we don't pop that right away. We wait for Linksha to take her turn, and now that she has taken her turn, now we action advance everybody. And so you may start to see the problem with Firefly on this boss, which is that E2 Firefly especially, but all Firefly in general, want to be breaking the Fugue toughness bars, especially during the broken phase. And the problem with this boss is all of those bars are basically gone by the time the boss actually breaks. Here I do want Firefly to be the one to break this boss so that she can action advance right after. And so she action advances right back to the front of the line. Perfect. Our rabbit is far away, so we can actually Linksha rabbit right here to pull it up. Now Linksha can skill. Firefly takes her turn. Ideally, we are looking to push this wave before Firefly takes her final turn, and we do manage to do that. Perfect. So this allows us to at least get one more turn with her E2 triggering. So now we get to finally trigger this again. TV breaks, advances everybody except for Firefly, unfortunately, and we continue breaking. Let's see. One interesting thing about the way Apocalyptic Shadow has changed is that Apocalyptic Shadow was a great mode for Firefly because of her problem getting back into her ult. And so Apocalyptic Shadow had the buff where you would be able to get full energy back when you broke the boss, which was terrific for Firefly. But one interesting thing is that now it doesn't really matter because she doesn't have problems getting energy back. So getting the action advance buff may actually be stronger for her in general now. Okay, Rabbit goes out. Perfect, so Firefly gets to do this break, and she gets to action advance right away. Right back to the top of the line. Rabbit is very far away. I don't expect us to make it to that point. Action advance, everybody. Debuff with the Constance. Firefly takes her turn. Is this going to be the kill? No, not quite. So 1694, 1681. Not bad, certainly, but with a boss that's less shield and without a buff, you can see how she starts performing worse. And you can imagine it being even worse if it were an entirely single target boss, for example. Final score, 1672. Next up is Pure Fiction. Dahlia has been an enormous change for Firefly in Pure Fiction. It's like a completely different character. Right away you can see the difference that Firefly's technique is able to clear that first wave, which is something that she stopped being able to do around 5 or 6 months ago for me, but now she's back to doing it, which is terrific. In addition, Dahlia, provides a lot of AoE, which is something that the Firefly team was weak at previously, but now there's a lot of redundancy in terms of toughness, imprinting, and just AoE damage on this team. It's really, really strong. So, Pure Fiction used to be Firefly's worst mode by far, because she struggles with AoE on her own. But now, after all the various buffs that she's got, Fugue Z2, Linksha, and now especially Constance, the reality is that this is probably her strongest mode now, in my opinion, or at least the most consistent, maybe is the right way to think about it. So here we want to break this with Firefly, so we do that ult there. Here we just continue doing this, and now Linksha can do her skill. The thing about Linksha is, she's in a weird spot right now because I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to give that kill to Firefly. So, Linksha's in a weird spot because one of the strong points about her was that she gave AoE redundancy to Firefly, which Firefly didn't have before. But I'm not going to say that Firefly doesn't need it anymore, but she kind of doesn't need it anymore. It really puts Linksha in this bizarre position where, she's still decent on the team, but she doesn't really provide anything that's necessary. I think she's probably strongest with AoE on enemies that have more health than something than in Pure Fiction, so probably like apocalyptic shadow enemies. I think she obviously has still more upside than many alternatives, so like a Gallagher, he can do a lot of the same roles, but if you are willing to put like an extra Eidolon or two into Linksha, she definitely starts to pull ahead in a very valuable way. There's still a place on the team for Linksha, but it's definitely more awkward than it used to be. So here we rebuff with Fugue, and now we get our E2 trigger. And we try to get back our whimsicality. This should probably bring Firefly back to the top. No, not quite. Yeah, we can skill here. Okay, this brings Firefly back to the top. Great. Yeah, so you can see, like, she does decent damage overall, but I don't know. Linksha, I think maybe what needs to happen with Linksha is you probably need to go for more AoE with her, like more damage. Like try to give her a break effect rope, and have her push more damage that way. Okay, so now we're going to use our ultimate. Pull Firefly back into her cycle, give her one extra turn, trigger her E2, beautiful. Interesting question is, can we finish this before the second cycle? So she drops out, unfortunately she can't pop right back in. Hue is going to come out before she is able to get into her skill. Hopefully he doesn't push her out of the cycle. But as you can see, you know, it's a huge change. Obviously this team has a lot of benefits, a lot of advantages over a vanilla budget team. But I've seen, you know, even E0 Fireflies doing 40k with Gallagher on the team. Like, she does a lot of work now. And with the help of her team, she's pretty flexible in this mode. She can definitely carry her side, and then you can just get an easy 24k or whatever you need to get the full points on the other side. And the nice thing is, without a buff, this is fairly reliable. The only thing that can stop this is very massive HP inflation. You know, if we were using the buff that this Whimsicality provides for super break damage, the score would be even higher. Now for Memory of Chaos. So on the first side we have this new horse, which is very annoying to deal with, but fortunately, one nice thing about vertical investment is that we can just ignore game mechanics if we can just kill the enemy fast enough. So we kill this horse right away, and now we just spend the rest of the cycle farming up some skill points and farming up the buff for this Memory of Chaos. There's no way to turn off the break buff, so might as well take advantage of it while we have it. It's a decent one. We will notice we're not using our ults. This will look weird, but basically the only ult we're interested in using is the ult from Dahlia, which has defense shred on it, so it will make all of this do a little bit more damage. The rest we need to save for when Sam leaves their locked mode. But as you can see, you know, the damage on the locked enemies that Dahlia provides is decent. It's not huge, partially because Firefly herself doesn't do a lot of single target damage. By the way, we're skilling as fast as possible so that Dahlia can get her ult back just in time for Sam's ult. But so this damage is not negligible. Like before, we would have done 0 damage to Sam when Sam is locked. It would have been a terrible matchup. Basically, this entire cycle we didn't really get to do much, and we kind of still don't get to do much. That situation hasn't really changed. So Sam is finally going to unlock, and now that Sam has unlocked, we're going to unload all of our ultimates. This is what we were saving them up for. I tried a bunch of different rotations, and this is the one that worked the best. So here we do not ult with Firefly, because first we want to have Dahlia trigger this. We don't lose any action value since both Dahlia and Firefly were at 0 action value. so they just change turn orders. And this squeezes out a little bit more damage. So, see how much faster it goes when the enemy is broken? It's a significant improvement. So, we still want to be breaking people for sure. That's never changed. It's just that, you know, if we miss the break, then it's not like game over. We don't lose like 500 AV trying to get back into the break phase. It's just a little bit worse. And, you know, we can still finish off with some chip damage. But this is the best rotation I was able to find, and unfortunately this is not going to be enough. You know, we get to 3%. So on the second side, we basically repeat what we did on the first side. Now, the enemies still do a lot of damage, so there's like a reason to bring Linkshot if you want to. But in terms of HP and overcoming it as DPS, this team has no problems with it anymore. And Mosi would have to go through a big spike in HP before we have to worry about power creep. So we just lock down one elite, lock down the other elite. And now we just get the rest of our team their ultimates in preparation for the next wave. Just the basic here. Don't want to accidentally kill this, so just basic. Now Linkshot has her ultimate, and now that she has her ultimate, we can go ahead and go to the next stage. So Hule is a boss that doesn't lock up their HP. So one of the perks of that is we actually get to play the video game right away. Unfortunately for him, because we're going to be locking him up with break, he doesn't get to play the video game. But one interesting thing about Dahlia is that all these ults that I just did to wear down Hule's toughness bar, with her E1 you actually don't have to do that. You can save them for a later stage. So, you know, cutting him up like butter, very easy. But now we have to work back on wearing down his toughness bar. And that can be kind of frustrating. So if we had her E1, we could have used her E1 to wear down his toughness bar in the beginning, and then he would get worn down in the second toughness bar with the ults, and so we would have probably already killed him already by now. But here, just want to make sure that Firefly is the one to break this. So just basic here, and give her all of this. And now we advance everybody back into the turn. And easy accidental zero cycle. So the end game is the regular end game, not including anomaly arbitration, is effectively too easy for this free-to-play account at this point. And finally, anomaly arbitration. I'm only going to show the king stage to keep the video length reasonable. This king is a good boss for Firefly, and because of the mechanics, it's easy to drop your sustain for Ruin Mei and zero cycle it. You can also zero cycle it using Harmony MC, and this team actually does a bit better, mostly because HMC recharges Dance 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 faster than Ruin Mei. But this isn't a zero cycle channel, and as a free-to-play vertical investor, I'm more interested in how well Firefly would do on this boss without a buff, and if she had to use Linkshot to stay alive. So we open up with a big chunk of damage from the technique, which is nice, but one thing I was thinking about is getting Dahlia's E1, as we discussed in the Memory of Chaos fights. But the problem is King in check takes so much more time than other fights that E1 kind of loses a lot of value for Firefly specifically. But here we do get double break, which is a decent amount, and we can start pushing the rest of the DPS. The one part where the E1 is kind of valuable is it would buff Linksha and the other characters more. I think it's kind of a problem for Linksha is that she's not really getting that much damage out at this point. I think she does want E1 for investment, and ironically she gets better with Dahlia's investment. She would definitely be doing more damage that way. But, you know, she still does, like, okay chip damage. But, unfortunately, this is not going to be quite enough to push the boss over the edge. Instead, he wakes up with 7%. However, fortunately, we still have these broken birds, and we can now do damage against awoken enemies. So, despite that happening, we can still push the boss over to the next stage. And it's kind of unfortunate that we have to start with like 0 action value or 0 ultimate energy, because this is going to take a lot longer than it has to. If we had this defense shred on the previous fight, it would have been a lot faster. Here we can afford to, we cannot afford to do that. Probably just want to do this because we had to rebuff Firefly. Firefly's gonna drop out. This is gonna trigger a rabbit. I don't want the rabbit to be the one breaking. Instead, I want Firefly to do it. So now we get back into our mode. And this should do more damage than before because of the defense shred now on the boss. Yeah. And now we rabbit out. You know, each ult does like 4 or 5% damage of a boss. It's not negligible. She does decent support damage. Keep pushing with Firefly. Interestingly enough, Fugue is now the least damaging member of the team. And so here we lose the 0 cycle, but we push the boss into the final phase. And we use the train to whittle down this limbs. Do we need to push this rabbit? Can we afford to? Yeah, this is probably fine. We don't have to rebuff for a while. Okay. Fortunately, we're not gonna get an E1 trigger here. Do we need to? Yeah. Gotta be careful with how much toughness damage we do. We do want Firefly to be the one breaking. So Firefly drops out. And we're just basic is fine. Here we do want to rebuff, and I'm actually going to ult to get Firefly back in front of the boss. I think we're going to lose 1 break here to the rabbit. Lost both. That's unfortunate. But this is the other weakness for Firefly, is if you have a boss with single target HP that doesn't like die in 1 or 2 attacks, that requires quite a few attacks, and that's the way the King and Check bosses work, she loses a lot of time. Here, we can just keep pushing. This is fine. Don't need to reskill for a while. Okay, just have to do basic here. I guess we can just use the train. I don't expect to be able to re-break this boss. Here we're just basic. And so now we're going to, unfortunately, lose a star. Yeah, we're just a bit short. We would need more investment to keep that last star. But it's probably like 1 Eidolon of investment away from being able to 3-star this without any buffs. We rebuff, and the great thing is we don't have to waste like waiting 2 turns to get back into the ult. So we finish with a 3 cycle. So to answer the question from the beginning of the video, was the past 18 months of investing in Firefly worth it? Absolutely, it's been great. There were low points, but with each upgrade Firefly's playstyle changed a little, and she got stronger and more flexible. Do I recommend pulling her now? No, I still don't. So much of Firefly's current power comes from Dahlia, and you can get similar performance on a Dahlia team out of Himiko or Shui as you would from a new E0 Firefly. However, if you already pulled Firefly and want to keep investing in her, my recommended order after Dahlia would be Fugue, then Firefly's E2, then Fugue's E2, then Linksha. As we discussed, is in a weird spot. Super Break is bulky and delays enemies, so you might feel like you can run to no sustain. But 5-target AoE will continue to be Firefly's biggest weakness, and E1 Linksha is still the best way to plug that problem. But the other characters and their Eidolons definitely take priority. I have all of their signatures and they're nice to have, but they're mostly incremental damage and none of them are mandatory, so you can pull them last. That said, Firefly's light cone is better now than it used to be because the team doesn't have Ruin Mei's action delay anymore, so the action delay on this light cone is more valuable now. As for myself, I still want to get Firefly to E6, but her E3 to E5 are garbage. So that's something I will do on her next rerun. Instead, I used the pulls I got from 3.8 to try for Dahlia's E1 and lost to Himiko. I'm going to stop there and save the pity. My Firefly is in a great place now and I need to focus on my other teams. They've been struggling a bit when the Knights are not a perfect matchup for them, and they need a couple DPS Eidolons. I'm also pretty unhappy with Gallagher right now. Throughout Amphoras, he has been struggling with the aggressive enemies, and I'll be on the lookout for a replacement for him. Let's wrap things up. Subscribe and like, join the Discord, the link is in the description. If you have any questions about account management, we have a clinic channel for that. I'll see you in the next one.